You step up to the tee. Same swing you've owned for 50 years. The ball climbs, drifts, and drops, and it lands 30 yards short of where it used to. You didn't get weaker overnight. Your rhythm is fine. So why is the ball dying in the air? Here's what I found, and it stopped me cold. For most golfers past 70, the lost distance has almost nothing to do with muscle. It's the iron in your hands, built for a swing you no longer have. I only started digging because of my father-in-law, standing on the ninth at a little muni course outside Tucson, watching his 7-iron fall like a wounded bird and muttering, "I used to carry that green." By the end of this, I'll show you the exact discovery that traces back to a tinkerer in a Phoenix garage in 1959, a man whose scribbled notes rewrote what a golf club could do. And I'll give you a free test you can run in your own driveway this weekend that fitters quietly charge for. This isn't for young men with fast hands. This is for the swing you have right now today at the age you are. Let me back up to where this whole thing started, because I didn't believe it at first either. I thought the answer was obvious. You get older, you lose speed, the ball goes shorter. Simple. That's the story everyone tells, and it's the story I walked in believing. So I went looking for the numbers, expecting them to confirm it. And they did, but only halfway. Here's the part that matters. The average golfer swings a driver somewhere around 93 miles an hour. A touring professional swings closer to 113. And a healthy golfer in his 70s, often down around 75 to 85 miles an hour with the driver, and slower still with the irons. Swing speed does fade with the years, roughly 1% a year after middle age, according to the fitting data I dug through. Nobody's arguing that. But then I found the number that broke the whole story open. A slower swing doesn't just hit the ball softer, it hits the ball lower. And a ball that launches too low, with too little backspin, falls out of the sky early no matter how clean you catch it. Two golfers can strike the ball with the exact same speed, and one carries the green while the other comes up 15 yards short. The difference isn't strength, it's launch. It's the angle the ball leaves the face and how long it stays airborne. That's when it hit me. My father-in-law wasn't losing distance because he'd gone weak. He was losing distance because his old blade irons needed a fast, steep swing to get the ball up, and that swing was gone. The club was designed for a man 20 years younger than him. He'd been fighting his own equipment for a decade and blaming his body the whole time. So I had my first clue. It wasn't him, it was the tool. But that only raised a bigger question. If the right iron can get the ball back in the air, then somebody, somewhere, figured out how to build that iron. And if they figured it out, why is almost nobody over 70 actually playing one? Who buried this? To answer that, I had to go back further than I expected, all the way to a garage. There's a name that kept surfacing every time I pulled on this thread: Karsten Solheim. If you've ever golfed, you've held his idea in your hands without knowing it. Solheim was an engineer at General Electric, a man who worked on television sets and antennas, not sporting goods. He didn't even pick up a golf club until he was in his 40s, and when he did, he was terrible at it. That part I loved, because it means the man who changed the game was a frustrated beginner, just like the rest of us. In 1959, in his garage, Solheim started tinkering with a putter. He noticed something the whole industry had ignored. On a traditional club, all the weight sat right behind the center. Hit it dead perfect, and it worked beautifully. But hit it even a fraction off center, the way ordinary humans do, and the club twisted in your hands and the ball wandered offline and died. The forgiveness simply wasn't there. So Solheim did something radical. He took the weight from behind the center and pushed it out to the edges, to the heel and the toe. He hollowed out the middle. When that putter made contact, it went ping, and that sound became the name of the company he built. But the principle behind that sound is the thing I want you to hold on to, because it's the key to everything. They call it perimeter weighting. Move the mass to the outside edges of the club head, and you create stability. Now, when you catch the ball a little thin, or a little off the toe, the club resists twisting. The face stays square longer, the ball still launches high, still holds its line, still flies close to full distance. Solheim brought that same idea to irons, and by the time the Ping Ai 2 iron arrived in 1982, it became one of the best-selling irons in the history of the game. Millions of sets. It was so effective, so forgiving, that its grooves later triggered a lawsuit with golf's governing bodies because players felt it gave too much of an advantage. Now here's why this matters more to you at 75 than it did to anyone at 45. The slower and shallower your swing gets, the more you live on the edges of the club face. You're not compressing the ball dead center every time anymore. Almost nobody is. So the club that spreads its weight to the perimeter, that keeps the ball flying even on a mishit, isn't a luxury for you. It's the single biggest thing standing between you and the distance you think you lost. So the mystery cracked open a little wider. The technology to keep an older golfer's ball in the air has existed since 1959. It's proven. It's sold by the millions. So why was my father-in-law, and probably you, still swinging something that fights against it? That's where I stopped looking at the club head, because I found out the head is only half the story. The other half is a hollow tube almost nobody talks about, and it turned out to be the piece that had been quietly working against older golfers for years: the shaft. The part of the club everyone stares straight past. Here's what I learned, and it genuinely made me angry once I understood it. For decades, the standard iron shaft was made of steel, and a set of steel-shafted irons is heavy. That extra weight was never a problem for a strong, fast player. But for a golfer whose swing has slowed with age, a heavy, stiff shaft is like trying to swing a fence post. It won't load, it won't flex and fling the ball forward. It just fights you the whole way down. Then graphite shafts came along, and the numbers on these are the numbers I wish my father-in-law had seen years ago. A graphite iron shaft can weigh less than half of what a heavy steel shaft weighs. And here's the domino effect. A lighter shaft is easier to swing faster. Even a few miles an hour of extra clubhead speed translates to real yards. The fitting research I went through kept showing the same pattern over and over. Move an older golfer from a heavy, stiff steel shaft into a lighter, more flexible graphite one, and you'll often see swing speed climb, launch climb, and carry distance climb, all at once, from the same body and the same swing. There's a second piece to this, and it's the flex. Shafts come in different stiffnesses, and for years the marketing pushed everyone towards stiffer shafts because stiff sounded strong and manly. But a stiff shaft needs a fast swing to bend and release its energy. If your swing has slowed, a stiffer shaft just stays rigid and dumps the ball low and short. A softer flex, what most companies now label senior flex or sometimes an A-flex, is built to load and release at slower speeds. It whips the ball up and out. That word senior on the shaft isn't an insult. It's a promise that the club is finally built for the swing you actually have. And now I need to talk to the person watching this who's already shaking their head. The one thinking, this is all well and good, but I'm not about to spend a fortune on a whole new set of custom clubs at my age, and I'm not driving 2 hours to some fitting studio to be measured like a suit. I hear you. My father-in-law said almost those exact words. So let me tell you what you can do right now, this week, with clubs you might already own or can grab used for almost nothing. First, the easiest one. Check the grips on the clubs you already have. This costs almost nothing, and I've watched it change ball flight in an afternoon. As grips age, they get hard and slick, and a hard grip makes you squeeze tighter, and a tight grip strangles your swing speed and your release. Fresh grips, and slightly oversized ones if your hands ache with arthritis, let you hold the club lighter. A lighter hold means a freer release, and a freer release means the ball gets up and goes. You can re-grip a set on your kitchen table for a few dollars a club. Second, and this is the one that surprised me most, you almost certainly do not need to replace your whole set. You need to replace the hardest clubs to hit, and only those. The long irons. The 3-iron, the 4-iron, sometimes the 5. Those clubs have the least loft and the longest shafts, and they are the very hardest to get airborne with a slower swing. They are the clubs that betray you. Replace those specific ones with hybrids, those rounded clubs that look like a small fairway would, and you keep your comfortable short irons while finally getting the long-distance shots back in the air. You can buy quality used hybrids for the price of a nice dinner. This is not starting over. This is a targeted repair on the swing and the bag you already have. So the picture was getting clearer and, honestly, a little infuriating. A slow swing golfer wins distance 3 ways at once. A forgiving perimeter-weighted head, a lighter graphite shaft in a softer flex, and hybrids swapped in for the unhittable long irons. None of it is new, all of it is proven. So why does every golfer over 70 I meet still think the problem is their body? That question is exactly the one I couldn't let go of, and it's the reason I ended up writing 3 books about it instead of just one video. Everything I found while digging into this: how to measure your own swing speed at home without booking a fitting, how to read the shaft label that lies to you, how to diagnose every club already sitting in your garage and tell which ones can be saved and which ones are quietly stealing your yards. All of it is in there, laid out step by step so you can walk the bag yourself on a Saturday morning. It's the long version of what I'm giving you here, with the independent test data and the exact questions a salesman cannot dodge. If that's the kind of thing you'd rather own than guess at, scan the QR code right there on your screen, or use the link in the description, or the pinned comment for the books. Now back to what I found next, because the head of the club turned out to be only half the story. Because someone profited from you believing that. And once I saw who, I couldn't unsee it. Here's the uncomfortable part. There is an entire industry built on selling you distance, and its favorite trick is to make you feel like the problem is you. Think about how golf equipment is marketed. Every advertisement is a young, powerful player launching a ball into orbit. The message underneath is simple and cruel. If you're not hitting it far, it's because you're not good enough, not strong enough, not young enough. That message keeps you buying, because you're always chasing a swing you're told you're failing at. But the deeper trick is what they leave out. The most important thing that determines whether the ball flies far for an older golfer isn't the shiny new head they photograph in slow motion. It's the fitting, the shaft weight, the flex, the loft, and one more thing I'm about to show you that costs you nothing to check. And fitting doesn't sell magazine covers. There's no glamour in telling a 78-year-old that his real problem is a lie angled 2 degrees too upright. So they sell the dream and skip the fix. And every year you buy the newest set off the rack, take it home, and wonder why the ball still won't fly. Let me show you the irons that actually fight for you first, because in 2026, there really are heads built for exactly this problem, and then I'll give you the secret that makes any of them work. If you walk into any shop this year, ignore the sleek, thin player's irons on the wall. Those are the blades and near blades built for fast, precise swings, and they will punish you. What you want lives in 2 categories the fitters call game improvement and super game improvement. The names sound like marketing, but the engineering underneath is real, and it's the direct grandchild of what Solheim started in that garage. The first thing to look for is a wide sole, that thick bottom edge on the club. A wide sole pushes the weight low and deep, and low deep weight launches the ball high. That's the whole battle for a slower swing, getting the ball up. The second thing is a cavity back with an offset, meaning the face sits slightly behind the front edge, which gives you a split second more to square it up and helps turn a low fade into a high straight shot. The third is a lightweight graphite shaft in a senior or regular flex, already fitted from the factory and the models built for us. The lines built around these ideas for 2026 are ones you'll see named again and again. Ping's game improvement irons carry that same perimeter weighting DNA straight from the founder. Cleveland's launcher irons are built almost entirely around getting the ball airborne with a slow swing, with a wide sole and a low center of gravity. Wilson's launch pad line was designed with the express goal of fighting the low, weak shot. Cobra's game improvement irons pack the weight low and deep. Callaway and TaylorMade both make forgiving cavity-back models with light shaft options aimed right at the golfer who's lost a step. I'm not here to sell you one brand, I'm here to tell you what they all share, because that's the part that matters. Wide sole, low, deep weight, cavity back, light, flexible shaft. Get those 4 things, and the badge on the back barely matters. But here's the trap, and I fell into it myself while researching this. You could buy the single most forgiving iron ever made, the perfect head with the perfect shaft, and still lose distance if you skip the one measurement almost nobody checks. This is the thing the fitting studios know and the advertisements never mention. And you can check it yourself, at home, for free. This is the discovery I promised you at the start, and it's the one that made me sit back in my chair. It's called the lie angle. The lie angle is simply the angle between the shaft and the ground when the club is resting behind the ball the way it's meant to sit. It sounds like a boring technical detail. It is anything but. Here's why. If the lie angle is wrong for your body and your posture, the club will not sit flat at impact. The toe or the heel digs in first. And when the sole isn't flat at the moment you strike the ball, two terrible things happen. The face points off target, so the ball starts left or right of where you aimed. And worse for our purposes, the club can't deliver its loft cleanly, so you lose both accuracy and carry on the very same swing. Older golfers get hit by this harder than anyone, and here's the reason I couldn't stop thinking about. As we age, our posture changes. We stand a little more upright, our spine angle shifts, we don't bend over the ball the way we did at 50. But the clubs we own were built for the body we used to have. So a set that fit you perfectly 20 years ago is now fighting your new posture on every single swing, digging the heel in, twisting the face, killing the flight. You changed. The clubs didn't. And nobody told you to check. Now here's the part that made me want to shout it from a rooftop. You do not need to pay anyone to find out if your lie angle is wrong. There is a test golfers have used for generations, long before fitting studios existed, and it costs you the price of a strip of tape. Here it is. Take a strip of masking tape, or a piece of that light-colored tape from any drawer, and stick it flat across the bottom of the club, the sole, from heel to toe. Then find a firm, flat surface. A hard driving range mat is perfect, or a smooth board laid on the ground, or even a firm patch of packed dirt. Set a ball down and hit a normal shot right off that surface. Now flip the club over and read the tape like a detective reads a footprint. If the wear mark, the scuff where the club met the ground, is out toward the toe, your lie is too flat, the toe is digging, and the club needs bending more upright. If the mark is in toward the heel, your lie is too upright, the heel is digging, and it needs flattening. If the scuff sits right in the center, your lie is correct, and the club is finally working with you instead of against you. That mark on the tape is the single most honest piece of feedback in all of golf. It doesn't care about marketing, it doesn't care how old you are, it just tells you the truth about whether your equipment fits the body you have today. And the beautiful part, the part that ties this whole trail back to that garage in 1959, is that once you know, the fix is cheap and permanent. Most iron heads can be bent a degree or two upright or flat by any club repair shop for just a few dollars per club, a fraction of the cost of new irons. One small adjustment, and the club you already own sits flat at impact, delivers its full loft, launches the ball higher, and sends it straighter and farther from the exact same swing you walked in with. That's the secret they don't put in the advertisements. The distance you thought you lost to age was, for so many golfers, sitting in a 2-degree lie angle and a shaft too heavy to swing. The knowledge to fix it has been alive since a frustrated GE engineer refused to blame himself and blamed his equipment instead. It got buried under 60 years of glossy marketing that found it more profitable to sell you a new dream every spring than to tell you the truth once. A few club fitters kept it alive in back rooms, and now you have it, sitting right there in a strip of tape and a firm patch of ground. So let me put the whole trail back together, because you deserve the full map out of the maze. The ball started falling short, and you blamed your body. But the real thieves were a heavy, stiff shaft your slowing swing could no longer load, a low-launching head that needed speed you no longer had, long irons almost impossible to get airborne, and a lie angle that stopped fitting you the day your posture began to change. Fix those, and the yards come back. Not all of them, I won't lie to you, but enough to carry that green again, enough to stop feeling like the game left you behind. And here's what I want you to walk away feeling more than anything. You never lost your game. It was quietly taken from you, one marketing season at a time, by an industry that made more money selling you shame than selling you the truth. You were made to feel old when really you were just holding the wrong tools. Getting that back isn't vanity. It's taking back something that was yours all along. You're the kind of person who'd rather understand how something works than keep paying to be kept in the dark. You'd rather fix the club you own with a strip of tape than be talked into a set you don't need. That's not being cheap. That's being nobody's fool. And in a game that spends millions trying to make you feel less than you are, that quiet independence is the sharpest thing you can carry in your bag. So here's what I want you to do. Go run the tape test this weekend, and then come back and tell me what you found. Was your wear mark out toward the toe, in toward the heel, or dead center? Type it right there in the comments. Just tell me toe, heel, or center, because I read every one and I want to see how many of you have been fighting a lie angle nobody ever checked. Don't just think it. Leave the comment. It helps every other golfer scrolling past who's too proud to ask. And if you're done being sold the idea that getting older means giving up the things you love, come with me. This channel is a group of people quietly recovering the practical knowledge that convenience culture buried and hoped we'd forget. The fixes and the methods that keep money in your pocket and independence in your hands. Subscribe and stand with them, because the next trail I'm following is a strange one. I found an old note claiming a single change to the ball you play, not the club, can add carry for a slow swing, and it traces back to a patent almost 100 years old. I'm still digging, but when I have it, you'll be the first to know. This video gave you the overview, but there's more. Inside the Practical Wisdom Circle, I take you through the full iron-fitting walkthrough on your own swing, picking up right where we stopped. And if something puzzles you, you can ask me directly, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be doing this alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel any time with one click. I'd love to see you there. Now that you've found the right irons, let's make sure you're driving it long and straight off the tee. The most forgiving drivers for 2026 are up next, right here. Let's take a look together.